earned runs and a 2.22 ERA. He went 4-0 in 5 starts. Rodriguez was demoted 2 months after his MLB debut, but he's set to rejoin the O's rotation at some point this season. In Double-A Bowie, infielder Kobe Mayo was named League Player of the Month as well for June, a .340 batting average with 33 hits, 8 home runs, and 18 RBIs. At some point, he'll head to Norfolk this year, one stop away from his Major League debut. 1-2-5-1. That's been the Orioles' MLB draft order since Mike Elias and company took over for the rebuild in the 2019 draft. Now that it's complete and the Orioles are winning dating back to last season, the O's have their latest first-round pick in the Elias era. Those in charge in Birdland are in unfamiliar territory, selecting outside the top 5. The draft gets underway Sunday to kick off All-Star Week. The O's go 17th overall with 3 picks total on the first day. Starting pitcher, you would think, has to be a priority, but they have to be ready for anything with 16 picks ahead.
When you're picking as low as we are, 17th, there's just so much uncertainty about who's going to be there. For us, I would say we're looking at more of 10 to 12 range of guys that we either A, considering, or B, think have a realistic chance of surviving to 17. So it's just a lot of much wider net of players to deep dive on.
The Orioles have not taken a starting pitcher in the first round since Grayson Rodriguez. That was pre-Mike Elias and company running the Orioles.
All right, an in-depth look at your weekend forecast. And for Friday getaways, could see some spot PM storms, kind of like today. And then Saturday, more of the same. I think the morning is rain-free, and then it's hot and humid in the afternoon. Spot storm. That makes it probably 7 days of 90-plus, and a better chance of some rain and storms on Sunday. Finally, could drop out of the 90s. But I think your better outdoor days probably Friday afternoon into Saturday. And then if you're going down the ocean, nice warm water temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, and most of the weekend dry. By later Sunday, could see a few showers.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Put the power of the Weather Authority Storm Center in your hands. Download the free WBFF Weather Authority app for your smartphone for the latest on the summer heat and possible storms in your area. Go to your app store and search WBFF to get started. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6, an Anne Arundel County teacher is arrested on sex abuse charges against students. What he's accused of doing. And some Maryland lawmakers are calling for a special session to address the crime crisis. A closer look at how special sessions are used in other states.
Maryland's Republican Senate Minority Leader is calling on his colleagues to do more to stop crime in the wake of Sunday's mass shooting, the criticism he has for Democrats. Plus, Fox 45 News demanding answers about Safe Street's response to that shooting. What happened when our Mackenzie Frost pressed the mayor today? And breaking news involving the company behind the Titan submersible, their decision to suspend operations amid widespread controversy.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
And good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala. The search for the people responsible for Sunday's mass shooting continues. Police are looking for at least 2 shooters who they say used multiple weapons when they opened fire on the Brooklyn Day block party early Sunday morning. Now, state lawmakers are weighing in. One Republican with some harsh words for his Democratic colleagues.
Going after legally possessed firearms, permitted firearms. We've seen them go after law enforcement officers. We haven't seen them do anything to go against the violent criminals that are in our communities.
Senate Minority Leader Steve Hershey says in the wake of 2 mass shootings this week, Marylanders don't want to hear more condolences. They want to see action. Fox 45's Amy Simpson sat down with Hershey earlier today.
The Senate Minority Leader says it's time for lawmakers to get back to Annapolis for a special session, pointing to 2 specific pieces of legislation that he says need to be passed now. Separated by more than 100 miles, 2 Maryland mass shootings this week, one in Baltimore, another in Salisbury, now sparking calls for action in Annapolis.
This doesn't have to be partisan.
After Sunday's mass shooting in South Baltimore, which left 2 dead and 28 injured, Senate Minority Leader Steve Hershey taking to Twitter. Elected leaders are talking about root causes. He said in part, Marylanders deserve to know our leaders believe this is an immediate crisis.
The immediate thoughts and prayers and the condolences and the, heartfelt expressions that come out from our elected leaders, but nothing that comes out that says we are going to do something about this immediately.
Upon written request.
Today, Hershey pointing to 2 pieces of legislation that could make an impact now.
There should be outrage from the community against their elected officials on why these types of bills are not moving forward.
Over the last 4 years, he says the Violent Firearms Offender Act, which would put repeat criminals behind bars, only passed the Senate twice, dying in committee the other 2 times. And a bill that would make possession of a stolen firearm a felony in Maryland, he says never made it out of committee 4 years in a row.
But the fact that we can't even get these bills a vote in the Judicial Proceedings Committee is telling us that people don't want to fix these problems.
This lawmaker very bluntly saying there needs to be consequences. Hershey pointing to cases where juveniles are not being charged as adults or adults not facing jail time after committing a crime.
There are simply a number of legislators that do not want to see young Black individuals going to jail anymore. And I can understand where they're coming from, but they have to measure that with keeping their communities safe.
Today, we asked Senate President Bill Ferguson's office if Ferguson supports a special session to address gun violence.
I'll call on the Senate President as well, too. We have to do something.
And what legislation he thinks needs to be passed. But those questions for the Senate President were not answered.
The governor very easily can say, I want to see these 2 pieces of legislation on my desk. He's got that type of power in the state of Maryland when he's got control of both the House and the Senate to be able to make that kind of statement. And that's what I'm looking forward to hearing from the governor.
At least 3 times this week, Fox 45 News has asked if Governor Wes Moore will call a special session on gun violence here in Maryland. Each time, no response. In Baltimore, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Meanwhile, as lawmakers in our state debate the measure, special sessions are combating issues in other states across the nation. Our Rebecca Pryor looks into whether the tool is currently being used and what changes those sessions have sparked.
Yeah, in the last year alone, more states have gone back to work outside of their regular sessions than haven't. Sometimes they deliver change, sometimes they don't. Regardless, it's still a time for lawmakers to get back together and discuss new solutions.
In the weeks following, back to back to back mass shootings in Maryland. Some eyes now turning to Annapolis, watching and waiting to see if a special session will be called to address the tightening grip of gun violence on our state.
Voters and citizens want to have an answer to this problem. This has reached a level of crisis where Annapolis should come back into session and do something about it.
But so far, Fox 45's back-to-back-to-back emails to the governor's office going ignored this week. Fox 45 asking, will you call for a special session to address the issue? If not, what new actions will you take to prevent gun violence? So far, no response.
And there's no change coming under Westmore. There's no special session.
Meanwhile, special sessions are tackling issues elsewhere. Fox 45's research team finding in the last year alone, 30 out of 50 states have held a special or extraordinary session. For example, in Washington, lawmakers passing laws strengthening restrictions and penalties for illegal drug possessions, as well as establishing new treatment options for those struggling with addiction. In Pennsylvania, lawmakers extending the statute of limitations on sexual assault cases. In Idaho, lawmakers producing the largest tax cut in state history, while also increasing funding for education. And in South Carolina, lawmakers criminalizing fentanyl trafficking with added gun penalties. All solutions discussed and delivered outside of normal legislative sessions. This, as Maryland's capital remains closed for the summer.
They just don't want their summer vacation interrupted. That's what it comes down to, because there are things and actions they could consider taking on a variety of things.
Now, if no special session is called, Maryland lawmakers will have to wait until the next regular session to introduce new public safety measures, but that's about 6 months away. In Baltimore City, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Well, so far this year in Baltimore, both homicides and non-fatal shootings are behind where they were at this point last year. Since the start of 2023, 145 people have been killed compared to 183 last year. 343 people have been involved in non-fatal shootings, down from 362 by this point last year. Fox 45 News continues to question Safe Street's response to the mass shooting. The interim director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement telling Fox 45 News Safe Street's workers were at Brooklyn Day before the shooting happened. She says they de-escalated a few situations and knew some people had weapons, but didn't tell police it was happening. Today, our Mackenzie Frost pressed the mayor about that.
We cannot remove the responsibility from those who actually pulled the trigger. We are going to do that work of going to see what agencies could have done and done differently.
Do you still believe that Safe Streets is effective?
We know Safe Streets is effective, right?
After this, how can you say that?
Well, I could say many things.
Monzi will not tell us what time Safe Streets workers got to Brooklyn Day or when they left, just saying the internal communication policy is being reviewed. Now, Mackenzie also spoke with Public Safety Committee Chairman Mark Conway, who says he recognizes Safe Streets needed to maintain their community credibility. But during his hearing on the shooting next week, he wants some answers.
That said, in an instance where we know that there are multiple guns at a 1,000-person event, it sort of begs the question, what can they do that reduces the risks to that event, and doesn't put them in the line of ruining their credibility? And unfortunately, I think in this instance, we weren't fully prepared for it. And unfortunately, a lot of people paid the price for it.
Stay with Fox 45 News. Mackenzie Frost will have a complete report on the lingering questions surrounding Safe Streets, as well as the councilman and mayor's reactions, coming up on Fox 45 tonight at 10. In the meantime, we want to know what you think. Do you believe Safe Streets is an effective tool to curb crime in Baltimore? So far, 98% of voters say no. Head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in. After years of talks, the Baltimore Police Department has officially switched to encrypted radio systems and devices. Now, instead of being able to listen to scanners live, the public and our newsroom will only be able to access audio streams on a 15-minute basis or delay through the online platform Broadcastify. The department says this move allows them to focus on officer safety and connects them with other agencies that already use encrypted devices.
Now, a Fox 45 News alert in 3, 2, 1.
We're following breaking news right now. OceanGate, the owner of the submersible that imploded during a voyage to the Titanic, says it has suspended its exploration and commercial operations. You'll remember all 5 people on board that Titan submersible, including OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, were killed in that implosion last month. The suspension of exploration and commercial operations is listed at the top of the company's website. The site still features highlight reels of equipment and expeditions, including a page dedicated to how to tour the Titanic wreckage. The Titan was about an hour and 45 minutes into a planned dive to reach the remains of the Titanic when it lost contact with its mothership June 18th. Well, since the tragedy, new details have emerged about warning and safety concerns surrounding the Titan submersible, including employee emails saying the Titan could fail. The U.S. Coast Guard is now conducting an investigation into that evidence. Mary.
Kai, thank you. New tonight, an Anne Arundel County public school teacher has been arrested on multiple child sex abuse charges against students. Police arrested 27-year-old Carl Houston Walls today. Officials say they became aware of him back in May after two students came forward to report Walls sent them explicit text messages, photos, and videos. According to police, Walls had solicited child pornography from both students and had sexual contact with them. He is facing multiple charges, including second-degree rape. Police say they believe there are more victims. They're asking anybody with information to contact them. Baltimore police releasing new video of a person they believe is connected to a murder on the 4th of July. It happened near the 1600 block of McHenry Street. When officers arrived, they found a 53-year-old man with several stab wounds to his chest. He later died at shock trauma. Anybody who recognizes that man is asked to call police or Metro Crime Stoppers.
U.S.-China tit for tat. I'm Christine Frizzau in Washington with a look at how the challenges between the two countries might factor in to a high-level meeting this week.
And the heat and humidity continues with a miserable high levels of humidity. Look what happens by Monday. Starts to drop off a little bit. I'm going to let you know if that comes at the expense of some rain. That's in my Weather Authority forecast.
Trending now, Twitter is now threatening to sue Meta over its new rival app to Twitter called Threads. It comes just hours after Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg said more than 30 million people have signed up for Threads since last night. An attorney for Twitter sent a letter to Zuckerberg detailing the social media platform's issues with the new app. They're accusing Meta of, quote, poaching former Twitter employees to create a copycat platform. Threads is now available in more than 100 countries. Tonight, U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has been given a very difficult task to walk the fine line between competition and cooperation. She's in China to meet with top officials there about issues that impact both countries' economy and national security. National correspondent Christine Frizzau joins us live on Capitol Hill with the very latest on this. Christine?
Hey there, Mary. So, most high-profile meetings have different goals. This one, the mission is simply to keep the lines of communication open and to show the world that they're doing so.
In Beijing, a delicate dance with two partners still struggling to try to find the beat. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, the second top U.S. official to visit China in the last month, following Secretary of State Antony Blinken's visit, part of a mission to find common ground. But it comes as a back-and-forth battle over technology and trade looms large. China just announcing export controls on gallium and germanium, two metals used to make semiconductors needed for military technology, cars, and mobile phones.
One of the Chinese favorite things to do is to signal their control, both internally and externally to the world, and to remind everyone that they're one of the major sources of those metals in particular.
Lawmakers on Capitol Hill have been warning for years of the threat of that reality.
Unfortunately, many of these chips are now being made in China. Many of them are being made in Taiwan. This is an issue of national security and significance.
The U.S. has also been cracking down on China, limiting its access to technology. The tariffs on Chinese goods put into place by former President Trump still in effect, to the detriment, some experts argue, of both sides.
We hear a whole bunch of things about how, well, if the Chinese do X, we should do Y. The thing to always remember in trade is that you don't make a trade. You don't buy or sell something unless you expect to benefit from the transaction.
A transaction overshadowed by China's holding of U.S. debt, a number now believed to be about $870 billion.
So as you can imagine, with all of these realities in place, the White House has really been downplaying this visit and what might come of it. Instead, simply focusing and wanting to, again, show the world that this communication is happening, with very few policies expected to come in the near future. Mary?
It's a step. All right, Christine Frizzau reporting from D.C. for us tonight. Thank you.
All right, here we go. Taking a look at our Fox triple cast, the Mile 1 task cam and the Toyota Ocean Harbor sky cam. Some hazy sun. We have worked it back up to about 90 degrees as any rain has moved away from earlier. And the Fox triple cast also showing us our latest weather maker with some spot showers and storms. And the next one that's way up in Canada that could impact us as we head towards the end of the weekend. And that may help us out with some of these temperatures. Right now, this is day 5 of 90 plus. Made it to 91 this afternoon. We're now at 90. Winds are calmer. Humidity 51%. Yep, the heat index is stifling and pretty miserable. 95 degrees is how it feels. It is July Supreme. Toyota Shooter Harbor Skycam looking nice and quiet, so that's a good news for our end of our afternoon and evening commute. Temperatures all across the board in the 80s to right near 90. 90 degrees in Baltimore, 91 at Westminster. A little bit cooler on the eastern shore, where most recently we've had a couple of spot showers and storms, but even those have collapsed at this point. But still feels like 100 degrees at Laurel, 95 in Baltimore, 97 at Cockeysville, 97 at Westminster, and 95 degrees at Easton. So with the humidity, it does feel about 5 to 10 degrees warmer than it actually is. Again, HG radar showing some of these spot storms around. Not a whole lot here across Maryland right now. Had some earlier, but generally those have at this point kind of weakened and dissipated. So that's some good news for travels. But as we take a look at our wider scope, let's go ahead and zoom out. There are some showers and thunderstorms. The reason I call your attention to this up near the Canadian border, right along the northern Midwest. The reason I call your attention to that is because that could be our next weather maker towards the end of the weekend. Till then, need some rain. Take a look at that severe drought still on the west side of 95 and 695. So encroaching still on Baltimore. Any rain we can get, we will take. It's humid, still some spot storms next couple of days, and then that more major weather system that's out to the west that could get here again by Sunday. As we head into the overnight hours tonight, still mild and muggy temperatures in the 70s by early tomorrow morning, and by lunchtime tomorrow, yep, there we go. Rinse, repeat. The spot showers and storms develop. Not everyone's seeing them, but there could be a couple of heavy rainers. I'm going to let you know how much more rain we could have over the weekend in my exclusive 10-day forecast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Right now is peak allergy season at Lake Tahoe, but you could probably figure that out just by looking at the pine pollen on the lake's surface. The Gulf of Mexico looked more like a lake this morning. Smooth surfaces reigned in Panama City, Florida, and Gulf Shores, Alabama. And a towering storm obscured part of last night's sunset near San Antonio, but the long shadow helped make it a great shot.
For more content like this, follow the National Weather Desk on TikTok.
Musicians are calling out one popular film festival for not paying artists enough. Their demands and the festival's response coming up. Musicians in Austin, Texas are speaking out over the popular South by Southwest Music and Film Festival. They say the festival doesn't pay musicians enough to perform, with some only making $100 a day. Paige Hubbard from our Sinclair sister station in Austin has the story.
South by Southwest takes more than it gives.
South by Southwest is a private corporation. Why are we in the city's business having this conversation that is this long
A difference in opinions about fair pay compensation for South by Southwest artists came to a head during Wednesday evening's Austin Music Commission meeting. Nearly a dozen members from the local chapter of the American Federation of Musicians Union signed up to share their feelings on current wages they receive while working the festival.
The numbers themselves are frankly laughable.
That's what musician Philip Balky thinks about South by Southwest, giving artists the option of being paid a flat rate of $350 per band or taking a festival credential that gives them access to shows, business development workshops, performances, and other perks. Solo performers earn $100.
$73 per individual in that 4-person band. So clearly that's not enough to cover housing, food, and transportation